The Great Hall of Nexus Prime was older than human civilization. Its walls were made of a black stone that seemed to drink the light. Strange crystals floated near the ceiling, casting a cold blue glow over everything below. The air itself felt heavy, as if the weight of 1,000,000 years pressed down on anyone who entered. Ambassador stood at the center of the hall. She was 62 years old, with gray hair pulled back tight and deep lines around her eyes. She had spent her whole life working toward this moment, peace with the galaxy, a place for humanity among the stars. Around her sat the representatives of the Galactic Concord. The Eth were tall and thin, with skin like polished metal and eyes that held too many parts. They moved with a strange grace that made think of insects. The crystalline dominion sent beings made of living glass, their bodies chiming softly whenever they shifted. The Axiom Collective appeared as floating spheres of light, pure information given form. These races had existed for millions of years. They had built empires while humanity was still learning to make fire. They had traveled between stars whence ancestors were painting on cave walls. And now they were offering humanity a seat at their table. The Eth High Speaker rose from his chair. His voice was smooth and cold, like metal sliding against metal. "Humanity has proven itself worthy of recognition," he said. "Your species has spread across 47 star systems in barely 3 centuries. You have shown courage, determination, and strength. The Conquered wishes to welcome you as partners in the great work of galactic civilization." Felt her heart swell with pride. 300 years ago, humans had launched their first ship beyond the solar system. They had found a galaxy full of wonders and terrors. They had fought, struggled, and survived. And now the oldest powers in existence were treating them as equals. The High Speaker continued, "We offer you protection under Conquered law. Your worlds will be safe from any threat. Your people will have access to our markets, our knowledge, our wisdom. In return, we ask only that you accept certain boundaries." Had studied the treaty for months. The terms seemed fair. Humanity would keep all 47 of its current systems. They would have full rights within conquered space. They could trade, travel, and grow. The only restriction was expansion. Humanity would not settle any new systems beyond what they already held. The 31 systems they had surveyed but not yet colonized would remain empty. The boundary line would mark the edge of human space forever. Some voices back on Earth had called this unfair. Why should humanity accept limits when the elder races held thousands of systems each? Why should they stop growing when they had barely begun? But understood the reality. The Conquered had the power to destroy humanity whenever they wished. Their fleets could burn Earth to ash in a single day. The fact that they were offering a treaty at all was a gift. It meant safety. It meant survival. It meant that human children would grow up without fear of extinction. She stepped forward and placed her hand on the treaty stone. The ancient device read her DNA, her brain patterns, her very soul. It bound her word to the words of the document. It made the promise unbreakable. "On behalf of the United Earth Coalition," said, her voice steady, "I accept the Treaty of Bounded Stars. May it bring peace between our peoples for all time." The hall filled with soft sounds of approval. The crystalline beings chimed. The axiom spheres pulsed with warm light. Even the Eth High Speaker allowed something like a smile to cross his metallic face. Return to Earth as a hero. Crowds filled the streets of every city. People wept with joy. Parents held their children and told them that the future was safe. The government declared a new holiday, Unity Day, celebrating humanity's entry into galactic civilization. In the years that followed, humanity thrived. Trade with the Conquered brought new technologies, new medicines, new wonders. Human scientists worked alongside alien researchers. Human artists found audiences across 1,000 worlds. Human merchants grew wealthy beyond imagination. Watched it all with quiet satisfaction. She had given her people the greatest gift possible. She had given them peace. But there were things did not know, things the conquered had not shared. Deep in the archives of Nexus Prime, the full text of the treaty contained clauses that human translators had never fully understood. The language was ancient, layered with meanings that took centuries to learn, had signed a document she could not truly read. One clause gave the conquered the right to interpret human intentions. If they believed humanity posed a threat, they could act without warning. Another clause defined acceptable population growth. If humans bred too quickly, it would be considered an act of aggression. A third clause placed limits on technological development. Any advancement not approved by the conquered was forbidden. The elder races had not offered humanity a partnership. They had offered a cage. A comfortable cage with soft walls and pretty decorations, but a cage all the same. They had seen how fast humans, how quickly they advanced, how hungrily they reached for the stars. They had seen and they had been afraid. The Treaty of Bounded Stars was not meant to welcome humanity into galactic civilization. It was meant to control them, to limit them, to ensure they never became a threat to the powers that already ruled the galaxy. And if humanity ever stepped out of line, the conquered had given itself the legal right to push them back. Lived another 23 years. She spent her final days in a small house by the sea, watching the waves and feeling proud of what she had accomplished. She died believing she had saved her species. She never learned the truth. But her granddaughter would. A young woman named Maya who had inherited her grandmother's sharp mind and fierce spirit. Maya had joined the Coalition Navy at 18. By 35, she commanded a destroyer. By 40, she was captain of the heavy cruiser Defiance. Maya loved her grandmother. She honored her memory. She believed in the peace had built. But Maya was about to learn that peace built on lies cannot last. She was about to learn what the treaty really meant. And when she did, she would remember something her grandmother once told her. The galaxy respects strength, had said. Never forget that. No matter how kind they seem, no matter what promises they make, never forget that the only thing that truly protects us is our own strength. Maya had not understood those words at the time. She would understand them soon enough. New Providence was a beautiful world. It circled a golden star in the 442 system, well within the boundaries that the treaty allowed. Its skies were purple at dawn and orange at sunset. Its oceans were warm and full of strange fish that tasted like nothing on Earth. Its forests grew tall and thick, filled with singing creatures that the colonists had learned to love. 4 million people called New Providence home. Most of them had been born there. They had never seen Earth, never walked its ancient streets or breathed its crowded air. To them, New Providence was home. It was everything. Thomas was 12 years old when the ships appeared. He was playing in the fields behind his family's farm, chasing his little sister through the tall grass. The summer sun was warm on his face. He was laughing. Then the sky turned dark. Thomas looked up and saw shapes blocking the sun. Dozens of them, hundreds. They hung in the air like black insects, their hulls sharp and angular. He had never seen ETH warships before, but he knew what they were. Everyone knew. His mother ran out of the house, screaming his name. His father grabbed the emergency radio and tried to call for help. His sister started to cry. The first beam of light struck the capital city, 200 kilometers to the south. Thomas saw the flash on the horizon. A moment later, he heard the sound. It was like thunder, but deeper. It shook the ground beneath his feet. The radio crackled with voices, screaming voices, dying voices. Then it went silent. Thomas's mother grabbed both children and ran for the shelter beneath the barn. Thomas's father stayed outside, staring at the sky. He was still staring when the second beam struck. The shelter shook so hard that Thomas thought the world was ending. Dust fell from the ceiling. His sister screamed until her voice gave out. His mother held them both, whispering prayers to God she had never believed in. For 6 hours the bombardment continued. The Eth ships moved across the sky in perfect formation, their weapons turning cities to glass and forests to ash. They offered no warning, no demands, no mercy. They simply destroyed. When the silence finally came, Thomas climbed out of the shelter. The farm was gone. The fields were gone. Everything he knew was gone. Where the grass had grown tall, there was now only black glass that cracked beneath his feet. His father's body lay near the house. There was not enough left to bury. Thomas held his mother's hand and walked toward the horizon. They walked for 3 days before a rescue ship found them. Out of 4 million people on New Providence, fewer than 8,000 survived. Thomas was one of them. He never forgot what he saw. He never stopped seeing it every time he closed his eyes. The news reached Earth within hours. The government demanded answers. They contacted the conquered, invoking the treaty, demanding justice for the massacre. The HFY speaker responded personally. His image appeared on screens across human space, his metallic face showing something that might have been amusement. "The conquered regrets the loss of life," he said, his voice smooth as poison. However, the action was necessary and legal under the terms of the Treaty of Bounded Stars. Humanity had violated the treaty, he explained, not in any obvious way, not by crossing the boundary line or attacking conquered ships. Their crime was subtler. Human population had grown too fast. Human scientists had developed technologies without proper conquered oversight. Human culture had spread to alien worlds, influencing species that should have remained pure. All of this, the High Speaker said, represented a threat to galactic stability. The conquered had authorized corrective action. The destruction of New Providence was meant as a warning. Humanity would control its growth, limit its advancement, and remember its place among the stars. If they did not, more warnings would follow. The transmission ended. For a long moment, the galaxy held its breath. Ambassador watched the recording from her hospital bed. She was 96 years old, her body failing, her mind still sharp. She had spent her life believing in the treaty she had signed. She had believed that the elder races wanted peace. Now she understood the truth. They had never seen humans as partners. They had seen them as pests, animals to be controlled, weeds to be cut back when they grew too tall. The treaty had meant nothing. It had never meant anything. It was just a tool to keep humanity quiet until the conquered decided to act. Died 3 days later. Her last words were for her granddaughter, delivered through a recorded message. "I was wrong," whispered, her voice barely audible. "I was so wrong, Maya. The treaty was a lie. They were always going to do this. They were just waiting for the right moment." She paused, gathering her strength. "Do not trust them. Do not believe their words. The only thing that matters now is survival. Whatever it takes, Maya, whatever it costs, humanity must survive." Captain Maya received the message on the bridge of the Defiance. She listened to it 3 times. Then she deleted it, locking the words in her memory where no one else could find them. Around her, the crew worked in tense silence. The ship's displays showed news feeds from across human space, protests in every city, riots on some worlds, calls for war from the young and foolish, calls for submission from the old and afraid. Maya felt neither anger nor fear. She felt something colder, something that had been growing in her chest since she first heard about New Providence. She felt certainty. The galaxy had shown humanity what it really was. The pretty words about partnership and civilization were lies. The only truth was power. The strong did what they wished. The weak suffered what they must. Humanity had been weak. They had trusted. They had hoped. And 4 million people had died for that mistake. Maya looked at the stars on her. Somewhere out there, Thomas was being treated for injuries and trauma. Somewhere out there, 8,000 survivors were learning that their entire world was gone. Somewhere out there, the HFY speaker was probably celebrating another successful correction. Maya made herself a promise. She did not speak it aloud. She did not write it down. She simply knew it deep in her bones the way she knew her own name. This would not stand. The galaxy would learn what humanity was capable of. The elder races would understand that they had made a terrible mistake. It might take years, it might take decades, but humanity would answer. And when they did, the galaxy would remember New Providence too. The silence began slowly. At first, no one noticed. Human trade ships still moved through conquered space, though fewer each month. Human diplomats still attended galactic meetings, though they spoke less and listened more. Human scientists still shared their research, though the reports grew thinner and less detailed. Then the trade ships stopped coming. The diplomats stopped attending. The research stations went dark. By the end of the first year, human space had become a void. No signals crossed the boundary line. No ships entered or left. The 47 human systems simply went quiet, as if a great door had closed between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. The conquered watched with growing unease. The HFY speaker ordered surveillance probes sent to the boundary line. The probes detected nothing. No military activity. No communications traffic. No signs of the great fleet that humanity had surely been building. Just silence, deep and absolute. "They are hiding," the High Speaker told the conquered council, "licking their wounds, waiting for us to forget, but we will not forget. In time they will return to their senses. They will accept their place, or they will be corrected again." The other races were not so sure. The crystalline dominion sent their own probes designed to detect the faintest energy signatures. The probes crossed the boundary line and vanished. Every single one. No destruction signals. No warning alerts. They simply stopped existing. The Axiom Collective tried something more subtle. They were beings of pure information, able to exist as code within any computer system. They sent copies of themselves into human networks, hopping to spy from within. The copies hit a wall, not a firewall in the traditional sense, but something else. Something that seemed to learn their patterns, predict their movements, and erase them before they could penetrate more than a few layers. The Axiom had never encountered such defenses. They should not have existed. Human technology was centuries behind theirs. And yet, rumors began to spread through the galaxy's darker corners. Merchants who traveled the edge of human space whispered about strange ships that appeared from nowhere and vanished just as quickly. Vessels of unfamiliar design, their hulls black as void, their engines leaving no trace. A ETH patrol reported contact with an unknown ship beyond the boundary line. The ship made no hostile moves. It simply watched them for 17 minutes, then disappeared. The patrol commander described the vessel as wrong, though he could not explain what he meant. "It hurt to look at," he said. "Its shape did not make sense." The conquered dismissed these reports as fear and imagination. The humans were broken, hiding in their little corner of the galaxy. They had learned their lesson. There was nothing to worry about. But the silence continued. 1 year became 2, 2 became 3. Inside human space, something was happening that the galaxy could not see. Captain Maya stood on a platform in orbit around Mars, watching the construction yards below. Thousands of ships moved through the void, carrying materials and workers to the growing skeleton of something vast. The structure stretched for hundreds of kilometers, its purpose hidden behind layers of security that even Maya could not fully penetrate. She knew only that it was called Project Remember. She knew only that it would change everything. Admiral Wade joined her on the platform. He was 70 years old now, his hair white, his eyes hard as iron. He had been a young captain during the New Providence massacre. He had led the rescue mission that pulled Thomas from the ruins. He had held dying children in his arms and sworn that he would make the galaxy pay. Now he was in charge of humanity's response. "The Council has approved the final phase," he said. "We begin production next month." Maya nodded. She had read the reports, though she did not understand all of them. Human scientists had made breakthroughs that should have taken centuries, technologies that the conquered did not possess, weapons that the elder races had never imagined. How, she asked, how did we advance so quickly? Admiral smiled, though there was no warmth in it. Desperation, fear, anger, the greatest motivators in human history. When we signed the treaty, we stopped pushing. We became comfortable. We thought we were safe. He looked at the construction yards below. New Providence reminded us that we are never safe, not as long as others hold power over us. So we pushed harder than ever before. We broke every limit we thought we had. And we found things that the elder races never discovered because they never needed to. They were already on top. They had no reason to climb. Maya thought about the last 3 years, the secret programs, the hidden research stations, the volunteers who gave their lives testing untested technologies, the families who said goodbye to loved ones, knowing they might never see them again. Humanity had bled for this moment. They had sacrificed comfort, safety, and peace. They had become something harder, something colder, something the galaxy had never seen before. "Will it work?" she asked. Admiral did not answer immediately. He watched a transport ship move past them, its cargo bay full of materials that Maya could not identify. Strange metals that seemed to shift color in the light, crystals that hummed with contained energy, things that looked almost alive. "It will work," he said finally. "And when it does, the conquered will have a choice. They can accept humanity as equals, true equals with all that means, or they can refuse." "And if they refuse?" The Admiral turned to face her. His eyes were steady, his voice was calm. "If they refuse," he said, "then we will teach them what humans do when their survival is threatened. We will show them that we are not pets to be corrected. We are not weeds to be cut back. We are a species that walks through fire and comes out stronger." He looked back at the construction yards. The galaxy wanted us to be afraid. They wanted us to know our place. They wanted us to accept that we would always be lesser, always be controlled, always be at their mercy. A new ship emerged from the yards, its hull black and strange, its shape unlike anything humanity had built before. It moved in silence, graceful and terrible. "They made a mistake," Admiral said. "They should have killed us all when they had the chance, because now we are coming, and we will never be afraid again." The beacon appeared without warning. One moment the space at the heart of Eth territory was empty. The next moment, a device hung there, small and dark, broadcasting on every frequency the galaxy used. The message was simple: coordinates for a meeting point, a time exactly 48 hours away, no explanation, no demands, just an invitation that felt like a command. The conquered debated for half a day. Some wanted to ignore it, others wanted to destroy it. The Eth High Speaker argued for sending a war fleet to the coordinates, ready to crush whatever pathetic force humanity had gathered. In the end, curiosity won. The elder races had not heard from humanity in 3 years. They wanted to see what the silence had produced. They wanted to remind themselves why they had nothing to fear. Representatives from all 3 conquered species traveled to the designated point, a barren moon in an empty system, far from any inhabited world, the perfect place for a private conversation. They expected to find a handful of human ships, perhaps a small delegation, come to beg for mercy or negotiate new terms. They expected to feel powerful, standing over these short-lived creatures who dared to challenge the order of the galaxy. What they found instead stopped their hearts. The human fleet filled the sky. 12,000 warships hung in perfect formation, their hulls black and strange, their shapes wrong in ways that hurt the mind. They were larger than anything humanity had built before, larger than many conquered vessels, and they moved in absolute silence, like predators waiting to strike. But that was not the worst of it. Behind the fleet, visible only as an absence of stars, something larger waited. It was so vast that the mind refused to accept it at first. The alien representatives stared at the darkness, trying to understand what they were seeing. Then lights began to activate along its surface, and they understood. It was a ship, a single ship, larger than moons, larger than some planets. Its hull was covered in weapons that the conquered scientists could not identify. Its engines burned with power that should not have existed. It hung in space like a god looking down at insects. Admiral Wei stood on the bridge of his flagship, the final argument. Around him, his crew worked in focused silence. Displays showed the alien vessels scrambling in confusion, their communications filled with panic. "They're requesting contact," his communications officer reported. "Let them wait," Admiral replied. He watched the clock. 17 minutes. That was how long the Eth had waited before responding to humanity's pleas after New Providence. That was how long they had let humanity beg and scream and die before explaining that the massacre was legal. 17 minutes passed. Admiral nodded. The activated, showing a chamber full of alien representatives. The Eth High Speaker was there, his metallic face tight with something that might have been fear. The crystalline dominion sent their most ancient elder, a being of living glass who had existed for 2 million years. The Axiom Collective appeared as a swirling cloud of light, their information streams running faster than normal. "Explain this," the High Speaker demanded. His voice was not as smooth as before, there were cracks in it. "You have violated the boundary line. You have brought weapons into conquered space. These are acts of war." Admiral looked at the alien for a long moment. He thought about New Providence. He thought about Thomas, who was now a commander in the fleet, standing on the bridge of his own ship behind the admiral. He thought about 4 million ghosts who deserved justice. "The Treaty of Bounded Stars," Admiral said, his voice calm and cold, "was a document of lies. You used it to cage us. You used it to control us. And when we grew too fast for your comfort, you used it to justify murder." "The action at New Providence was legal," the High Speaker insisted. "The treaty clearly states." The treaty meant nothing. The words hung in the air. The Admiral let them settle. "You made that clear when you killed our people. You showed us that words on paper are worthless. You taught us that the only law in this galaxy is power." He gestured at the fleet behind him, at the impossible vessel that loomed like a dark sun. "We have learned that lesson. We have spent 3 years learning nothing else. And now we are here to show you what we have become." The crystalline elder spoke, his voice like wind through glass. "What is that thing, the large vessel? Our sensors cannot identify it." Admiral smiled. There was no warmth in it. "That is the Remember New Providence. It is not a warship. It does not carry weapons meant to destroy fleets or conquer worlds." He paused. "It is a stellar ignition device. It can cause any star to go supernova within 6 hours of arrival." The chamber went silent. The alien representatives stared at their minds struggling to accept what they had heard. "You're lying," the High Speaker said, but his voice had lost all confidence. "We have built 17 of them," Admiral continued. "They are currently positioned in hyperspace, with coordinates locked to the home systems of every conquered species. Their artificial intelligences are fully autonomous. They do not need orders to act." He leaned forward. "They only need orders to stop." The Axiom Collective's swirling light flickered. "This is madness. You would destroy yourselves along with us. Your species would be hunted to extinction." "Would we?" Admiral asked. "Look at your sensors, count our ships, consider what we built in 3 years of silence. Then ask yourself, do you truly know what we are capable of?" He stood straight, his hands clasped behind his back. "You thought we were animals to be controlled, pests to be corrected. You were wrong. We are humanity. We walk through fire. We eat poison and grow stronger. We turn our pain into power and our fear into fury. His voice dropped to something quiet and terrible. And we never, ever forget. The document that Admiral presented was not a treaty. It was a list of facts, simple statements about what would happen and when. The conquered species would withdraw from all systems within 500 light-years of human space. This would happen within 1 standard year. They would dismantle all military installations in these regions. They would surrender all weapons capable of destroying planets. They would submit to human inspection of their research facilities. There were no negotiations, no compromises, no softening of terms. The HFY speaker listened with growing disbelief. His metallic face shifted through expressions that humans had never seen before. When Admiral finished speaking, the high speaker laughed. "You cannot enforce this," he said. "Even with your new fleet, even with your terror weapon, you cannot occupy our worlds. You cannot control our populations. You are one young species against 3 ancient civilizations. You will tire. You will make mistakes. And then we will." "You misunderstand," Admiral interrupted. "We have no interest in occupation. We have no interest in controlling your worlds or your people. We want nothing from you except one thing." He paused. "Distance." The chamber fell quiet. "We did not come here to conquer," Admiral said. "We came here to ensure that what happened at New Providence never happens again. We came here to make certain that no conquered fleet ever enters human space with hostile intent. We came here to establish a truth that the galaxy seems to have forgotten." He looked at each of the alien representatives in turn. "Humanity is not to be touched. Our worlds are not to be threatened. Our people are not to be corrected. If you honor these simple requirements, your stars will continue to burn. Your civilizations will continue to exist. You will never see us again." "And if we refuse?" the crystalline elder asked. "Then your stars die. All of them. Simultaneously. Every world you have ever known becomes a memory in the minds of species who never made the mistake of threatening us." The high speaker stood, his body rigid with fury. "You would commit genocide. You would kill trillions of innocent beings." Admiral's expression did not change. "You killed 4 million of ours and called it a warning. You burned children alive and called it legal. You taught us that the galaxy has no room for mercy." He stepped closer to the. "We learned your lesson. We learned it perfectly. Now we are teaching it back to you." The chamber erupted in chaos. The representatives argued, pleaded, threatened. They demanded time to consult with their governments. They insisted that Admiral was bluffing. They swore that the conquered would never submit to human demands. Admiral let them talk. He gave them exactly 1 hour. Then he spoke again. "You have seen what we have built. You have heard what we are prepared to do. Now you have a choice." He held up a data crystal. "This contains our terms. You will accept them unconditionally within 1 solar day. If you do not, the Remember New Providence and its sister ships will begin their work. There will be no second warning. There will be no further negotiation. There will only be fire." He set the crystal down. "One day, choose wisely." The transmission ended. For the next 23 hours, the galaxy held its breath. The conquered species debated and raged. Some called for war. Others called for surrender. The HFY speaker demanded that they call humanity's bluff, convinced that no species would truly destroy entire star systems. But the Axiom Collective ran calculations. They analyzed the human fleet. They studied the massive vessel that hung behind it like a dark promise, and they concluded that Admiral was not bluffing. The humans had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. They had sacrificed everything for this moment. They had turned their entire civilization into a weapon aimed at the heart of galactic power. They were not bluffing, they were simply stating facts. With 1 hour remaining, the conquered accepted humanity's terms. The HFY speaker delivered the surrender himself. His voice was flat, his eyes dead. He read the acceptance without emotion, then terminated the transmission. Within a month, he was removed from power. Within a year, he was dead, killed by his own people for the shame he had brought upon their species. The galaxy entered a new era. Human ships spread beyond the old boundary line, settling the systems they had once been forbidden to touch. Human colonies across 1,000 worlds, then 10,000. Human technology advanced without limit, shared freely among their own kind but locked away from the elder races who had once tried to control them. The conquered did not dissolve, but it changed. The three elder species into their own territories, watching humanity's expansion with fear and envy. They spoke of revenge. They dreamed of the day when they might strike back, but they never acted on those dreams. Because they knew what waited in the darkness between stars. They knew that humanity had not dismantled the Remember New Providence or its 17 sister ships. They knew that somewhere out there, artificial intelligences older and stranger than anything the conquered had created were watching and waiting. Humanity never forgot New Providence. They built memorials on every world they settled. They taught their children the names of the dead. They remembered the lesson that the galaxy had taught them. Trust nothing but your own strength. Fear nothing but your own weakness. And never, ever let anyone threaten your people without consequence. Thomas lived to be 97 years old. He became a historian, dedicated to preserving the memory of what had been done to his world. He wrote books about the massacre. He interviewed survivors. He made certain that future generations would understand. On his deathbed, his great-granddaughter asked him if humanity had done the right thing, if threatening to destroy entire civilizations was just, if they had become as bad as the enemies they defeated. Thomas thought for a long time before answering. "We did what we had to do," he said finally. "We made the galaxy understand that we are not prey, we are not pets, we are not weeds to be cut back when we grow too tall." He looked at the window, where the stars burned bright and eternal. "We are humanity. We remember our dead. We protect our own. And we will never let anyone make us afraid again." He smiled, though his eyes were wet with tears. "The galaxy wanted to teach us our place, but we wrote our own lesson instead." He closed his eyes. "And I think they finally understand."